God formed what he knew beforehand, too. My expedition in life. For whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son. Moreover, whom he predestined, these he also called; whom he called, these he also justified; and whom he justified, these he also glorified. Romans 8 verses 29 to 30. Some years ago, while I was serving in the Methodist Church Nigeria in Lagos, my mother came to visit me. She walked quietly through the beautiful apartment provided for her son. Her face reflected joy and satisfaction at the path of ministry I had chosen. As she sat down to eat the meal I prepared for her, the Holy Spirit impressed something strongly upon my heart. I suddenly said to her, "Mummy, I am not yet where I ought to be." She looked at me in surprise. She wanted an explanation, but honestly, I could not explain what I meant. At that time, I myself did not fully understand the weight of those words. But about 2 or 3 years later, I resigned from my work with the church and moved fully into missionary work among villages and remote places. Then I understood what God had spoken years earlier. But humanly speaking, who abandons comfort for uncertainty? Who leaves the city for rough village roads? My feeding, accommodation, transportation, and daily welfare were already secured. Yet I walked away from all of it into a life that appeared difficult and unpredictable. Even if I was called into ministry, why not remain in the cities? Why choose the hidden places? How do you explain such decisions to ordinary reasoning? But this much I know, there is an eternal purpose working over my life. I have come to understand that there is a divine plan, the heavenly ordination, guiding the course of a surrendered man. A person may resist it and still appear successful before men, but deep within, he will remain empty and unfulfilled. True fulfillment begins when a man aligns with the purpose for which God formed him. The search for purpose begins with God. Whenever something is forced to function outside its original design, it gradually loses strength, value, and effectiveness. In the same way, a life disconnected from divine purpose eventually becomes exhausted and frustrated. Paul understood this mystery when he declared, "Therefore, O King Agrippa, I was not disobedient to the heavenly vision." Acts 26 verse 19. There was a heavenly vision over Paul's life, yet many earthly voices tried to silence it. There was a divine calling upon him, yet human expectations fought against it. One voice had to prevail. Mordecai once reminded Esther of this truth. Who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Esther 4 verse 14. Esther was not placed in the palace merely for luxury or pleasure. She was positioned there for divine assignment. Her obedience would preserve a generation. Beloved, life is more than comfort, pleasure, and personal ambition. There is an assignment attached to your existence. There is a reason heaven allowed you to be born. Some destinies are connected to your obedience. This was the tragedy of Samson. God prepared him from birth to deliver Israel from the Philistines. Heaven invested strength, grace, and purpose into his life. Yet Samson wasted divine investment through careless living, lust, compromise, and disobedience. Instead of confronting the enemies of God, he became comfortable among them. What a painful story. The tragedy was not Samson's failure alone. An entire generation suffered because their appointed deliverer played with destiny. How many lives remain in bondage because someone refuses to obey God? How many destinies are delayed because a man chooses comfort over calling? This is why the call to divine alignment is bigger than personal success. Your obedience may become the preservation of many others. When Paul was caught in the storm at sea, God told him, "Do not be afraid, Paul. God has granted you all those who sail with you." Acts 27 verse 24. For Paul's sake, others were preserved. This is the life God calls us into, a life that carries deliverance, light, hope, and preservation for others. Sometimes, like Jonah, we must honestly ask ourselves, could my disobedience be contributing to the confusion, suffering, or spiritual darkness around me? Friend, God is not late concerning your life. No matter how far you have wandered, His call still stands. Arise from spiritual slumber. Awake from distraction. Return to the purpose of God for your life. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. Isaiah 60 verse 1. The world is growing darker every day. Men are searching for meaning, truth, and hope. Yet God is still raising people who will carry His light to their generation. Will you be one of them? Do not waste your life pursuing what cannot satisfy eternity. Do not bury divine purpose beneath fear, sin, pride, comfort, or worldly applause. There is a cry from heaven for men and women who will surrender completely to God's assignment. Perhaps this is your moment of awakening. Perhaps this is your call back to purpose. Fall before God in prayer. Ask Him to reveal why He formed you. Ask Him to break every distraction fighting your destiny. Ask Him for grace to obey His heavenly vision. A generation is waiting. Destinies are connected to your obedience. And eternity will remember what you did with God's call upon your life. It is time to arise. It is time to return. It is time to fulfill your divine assignment. A call to prayer partnership? Again I say unto you, that if two of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. Matthew 18 verses 19 to 20. The church needs watchmen. The nations need intercessors. This is not the hour for spiritual slumber. Will you join me in prayer for revival, holiness, missions, and the advancement of God's kingdom? If you feel led, click the link below. https://chat.whatsapp.com/B8YOVYJHFOS0XRD6RX2?mark S=Illinois R=4. Peter Abdul-Razaq Olayinka. A serving missionary, Living Grace Christian Missions, Ilara. WhatsApp, +234 806 654 0987. Mobile, +234 802 849 5639 +229 019 413 9130. Email, peterrazaq@yahoo.com. X, formerly Twitter @Abdul-Razaq. LinkedIn, Reverend Peter Olayinka.